To the first day of February. Maybe it's a good thing to have gotten out of and survived January 2026. Welcome to February 1st, 2026, and this is the PDA Town Hall. And hey, William Walter up there in Wisconsin, how you doing?
I'm
Um,
surviving.
yeah, and I'm just gonna bring you in right at the top here because could there be more overlapping big news stories at once as there are right now? It's sort of insane, right?
It feels like in a television show where the entire planet consists of like eight different people, and every storyline that has massive ramifications always comes back to the same core group of main characters. And it's like, oh, how can these people be doing all of this stuff? Well, because it's a TV show. I mean, the real world, life. What's the quote? Life imitates art. Like it really feels like we are just being bombarded with this nonstop. I don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah, no, it's completely crazy. Even just in this last hour, somebody actually in the last 20 minutes, somebody suggested to me to look at a video that is on the one of the Midas platforms. And the woman's name is Allison, and she actually proposes something that I think we may want to consider adopting given that we are probably witnessing one of the clunkier and most extreme efforts at a cover up in the history of this country or any part of human political history. And what she suggests is if they're really not going to deliver any more information, I think we're going to have to maybe approach this. At least one way to approach the situation is through a coordinated series of mass public Freedom of Information Act requests around this, and to support the victims of Epstein, who I think will like this idea and this concept because it's what produced results for her as a journalist, which is the subject of her video here. I'll try to put the link to the video here. She doesn't suggest this as a strategy, but somebody called me up, pointed me to the video, and say, "What do you think about this as a strategy to try to get this information released?" And I thought, well, hey, that sounds like a good idea at first volley. And how do we loosen this information that they apparently are committed to now burying and keeping from the public?
Mhm. And Alan, I'm stunned consistently as more and more, 3 million documents came out. It's going to take the public a little bit of time to get through it, but Jeffrey Epstein had his fingers in everything. Like it sounds like a conspiracy to sit here and say, or again, to use a television trope, how a certain character will always blame everything that goes wrong on their arch rival at the high school or whatever. Like this dude literally was directly implicated or tangentially involved in almost every major bad decision of the past like 20 years. I mean, uh, I'll use a reference as a young man because this is something my friends have been, joking about all day. It came out that Epstein was in contact with Bobby. I'm gonna mess up his last name, but it's Bobby like Kotrick or something. He was the CEO of Activision, and
Mm.
Epstein was one of the individuals who was advising. Activision, by the way, is the company who makes the Call of Duty games, and he was advising Epstein to include microtransactions in the Call of Duty games because they wanted to get children hooked on the concept of gambling and being involved in the economy from a young age.
Right.
Young men have despised microtransactions in video games going back 15 to 20 years at this point because it's fundamentally changed the way that we interact with our entertainment mediums. And it just seems like something that would be so completely unrelated to the other nefarious activity Epstein was getting into. But the guy was a shadow broker for almost everything bad that has been going on for well over a decade at this point. It's remarkable.
Well, and Ghislaine Maxwell apparently was one of the
Ghislaine
most
Maxwell was a massive Reddit mod. Yep.
Reddit moderator.
And
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein was in contact with the guy who founded 4chan, which is of course where all
Right.
the QAnon
Right.
stuff started coming out. Like it's very possible that Jeffrey Epstein started QAnon as a psyop to distract from the activity
Well,
that he was genuinely getting into. Like that's not outside the realm of possibility at this point.
they absolutely correct. And in fact, if you know the history of 4chan, when it did start, it actually the preponderance of or the sort of largest clique were like left anti-capitalist anarchists. and it had a left progressive bent, and that, of course, changed. So
Hmm.
there we go.
Hmm.
There's some thought to put to that. So, yeah, crazy, crazy. But okay, again, before we introduce the show more formally, and again, this is the PDA Town Hall. You're at the right place, folks. The PDA Town Hall for February 1st, 2026. We are going to look at Texas, and we have a surprise special guest that hasn't been announced in emails or in the phone calls to our members for this town hall at the top of the second hour, whose work and his research is some of the most groundbreaking work imaginable in terms of protecting our democracy. And I'm sure most of the people on the call will know who that is, but I'll keep that surprise for a few minutes. Okay, so from your just common sense, right? Not talking about Tom Paine right now, but it could be.
Always happy to.
Well, interpretation of things, right? Who would not receive the information that came through just in this final tranche, especially with the documents, that one document that they tried to bury, but it was already too many people had seen it, so they had to bring it back up. I mean, that just seems like of course they're not corroborated or accusations that haven't been gone through the legal system in a full sense. But who would not deduce that Donald Trump may be more than just a pedophile protector? That we have a president right now who is there's enough information out there to suggest that this isn't a matter of not providing justice for the Epstein victims, that he was somebody who was central to making many of them victims himself.
No, he was a ringleader, certainly, certainly, and
Well, not just a ringleader, but a participant in the activities himself.
yeah,
That's
and
and these
it's
are all allegations, and well, neither William and I are saying that we're not making any declarative statement. We understand these things haven't gone through the judicial system, but common sense would say there's enough information here that there can't be any statute of limitations on crimes so heinous, right?
oh, and keep in mind just how many people in and around Trump's circle and network are also implicated. I mean, I can't help but laugh at just the audacity of someone like, I don't know, say Elon Musk, who went on Twitter, months ago when he and Trump were
Right.
feuding and was like, "Oh, Trump's in the Epstein files." Okay, well, so are you, Elon. It's been revealed that
Yeah.
Elon was basically begging Epstein for an invitation to his island so that he could go and party with him. Lutnick is involved. Larry Summers is involved. Like it's a who's who.
Lutnick, who gave an even more impassioned, uh, relatively recent media interview where he just declares straight out that he lived next door to Epstein. He went over. Boy, these people in this administration, they're real representatives of the people. They live right next door to the largest mansion in Manhattan. And
Mhm.
after he went there, he never went there again. And it's just so obviously false from the information that was released. And he's so
A number of them have blatantly lied to us. Jason Calacanis, the angel investor from Silicon Valley, was talking about how he hasn't spoken with Epstein or Maxwell since the '90s or early 2000s when they reached out to him in regards to a book that he was writing, and then of course emails released in the Epstein files note that they were in communication as late as 2010, 2011. Like it's almost everyone at the highest level of American politics at this point in time that work or support Donald Trump are somehow implicated in the Epstein files, almost as if his entire existence at this point is predicated on protecting this information and protecting the individuals involved. How deep this rot goes, I don't think the general public will ever find out the truth or the extent of it. But it's incredibly important that we keep pushing as far as we can because this is disgusting.
yeah. And but I would say that they'll never know. Well, first of all, it's probably so. There's so much that was criminal, and that this whole thing and every element of it is so off the charts, horribly criminal and terrible, and in felony territory. They may not know the whole picture, but I think they're starting to get a very good sense of it. Let's say. And by the way, the person who I suppose for about 24 hours he was the person that Trump had named for to replace Jerome Powell, who I'm guessing is not in the Epstein files. That Powell will be replaced by the person that Trump named was, of course, in the Epstein files.
Mhm.
So now he's the guy who Trump named to be the head of the Fed and was probably better known for then being found in the Epstein files. So yeah, wow, it's crazy. And of course there's a whole ton of other stuff going on in the world. And one of the mysteries of all of this is, do you think, final question for you, William, do you think it was wiser of the Trump administration where they it almost seemed like they were releasing the Epstein files to distract from, Minneapolis and just the whole public, and wave upon wave of people who had been Republicans or supporting Trump coming out and saying that they could not countenance what was transpiring on the streets of America, and turning against the Trump administration. There's a partial government shutdown. Things don't look good in the polls, and we'll talk about one poll result that was quite material that we had in Texas. We'll get to that in a second. But people were saying that now he's releasing the Epstein files to distract from all the other bad news that was consuming the Trump administration. But I think the question maybe for you is was it wiser to do this on the week before the Super Bowl, or would it have been wiser to release them on the week of the Super Bowl, which would be a distraction that would maybe work more in their service of burying the lead?
You know, we could sit around. It feels like the kind of conversation that a bunch of friends would go and have a beer together at a bar and just talk about. Is this incompetence? Is it designed? We have this belief that a lot of the power players in society are these omniscient, all-powerful entities that are using their brilliance to, manipulate the levers of power and the means of information to control the general public. And I think there is some truth to that. But at the same time, like Donald Trump and so many of these allies, as we are seeing through these emails, are just completely laughably incompetent. I don't want to assign that this was by design or anything because I really don't know at this point in time. I mean, I was
Well, I
reading
mean,
it.
come on. I mean, a Friday afternoon drop of information is
Right, it's
always
always Friday, but your
right.
question specifically in regards to like the Super Bowl week versus the
Mhm.
week before the Super Bowl, does Minnesota have anything to do with it? Are they just continuously coming up with greater or worse stories to beat back whatever terrible thing the administration had done the previous week? And then of course, you collectively have to make it worse and worse and worse, almost like like plot lines to a movie. Each movie has to get bigger and more explosive and more action. Otherwise, people will get bored of it. I don't know. One thing I also found immensely interesting, though, Alan, is like Google go, to our PDA family, Google anybody that's powerful at your state level and see if they are implicated in any way, shape, or form. For example, I looked up Scott Walker, the former governor of Wisconsin, who implemented a number of the Koch brothers' most aggressive right-wing strategies here in the state. He was the one who passed Act 10 that decimated our unions. He's, of course, mentioned in the Epstein files numerous times. Like just seeing how far and how deep this runs, I can't think that they're doing any of these releases strategically, because like they have to just be incredibly, incredibly overwhelmed at this point in time. There was one email from 2020 where an individual was mentioning that they were in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's about an hour north of Madison, and one of the other officials, and I'm going to mind blank on who it was. I should bring up the email so I could quote it. Said, "Where is Wisconsin? LOL. I googled it. It's north of Chicago." Like these are national officials who don't know the location of one of their 50 states, right? Like that's
Um,
acceptable for a first grader, perhaps. But my school had all 50 states painted on the concrete so we could play state tag, and we learned our states in elementary school. It's mind-boggling to me just how completely and laughably incompetent so many of these people are, while at the same time they are seeing over some of the most heinous and barbaric actions that you could ever possibly imagine. So much so that the Epstein files were under lock and key until Roe Khanna and Thomas Massey stood up and fought their hearts out to get it released publicly.
well, hey, William, thank you so much for being my interlocutor on this part of the town hall about the Trump Epstein files, and obviously it did sort of jump ahead of everything and become the dominant news subject. But we have a military moving around towards Iran in that part of the world. Whereas I think Marco Rubio is probably having a temper tantrum saying, no, no, we must invade and overthrow the Cuban government first before we go to Iran. So who knows what they might do any moment to distract from the Epstein files. We're now behind schedule. So thank you so much, William. I know you got to run today. William Walter, of course, from the YPDA, Young Progressive Democrats of America Steering Committee, and does incredible work organizing the state of Wisconsin, which is a swing state. And what has today, just in a special election result for the state legislature, I think we have another state that we are very much hoping is going to move past the swing state territory, just like Wisconsin will, into the progressive Democratic territory. And that is the state that, if it does in fact move into becoming a swing state as the parlance goes, it would be a transformative of all American politics. And that's the second most populous state in the country, Texas. And Texas is going to be the focus of our town hall. But we are running a little bit behind schedule. So we're going to be joined in the first hour by Zeeshan Hafeez, who is running for the U.S. Congress in Texas 33, as well as, and rejoining, he's been on a couple of our town halls, but he has already been on as he is running for the Texas Agriculture Commissioner. And of course, that is the last statewide office that was held by a Democrat, I believe, in the state of Texas. And Clayton Tucker is hoping to break the string of statewide victories by Republicans when he is to become the next Texas Ag Commissioner running this year. And Clayton and Zeeshan will tell us how things feel in Texas in the wake of a really stunning victory by Taylor Remmett. And Taylor Remmett is apparently a Medicare for All progressive Democrat who has won a special election in what was a plus 20 Republican district, and that is for the state assembly. So, state senate, actually. So, yes, that's Texas, and it is very important. And we will focus on what are the prospects, not just for the Democratic Party, but for progressive Democrats in Texas. We're going to learn about the race in Texas 33 and get an update on the Texas Agricultural Commissioner's race. Now, before we get there, I do want to hear from Donna Smith, who is joining us this week with her thoughts. But first up, Mike Fox, our PDA to-dos. And at the top of the second hour, folks, we're going to be joined by journalist Greg Palast, and he is going to tell us his thoughts on what we need to do to protect our democracy in 2026 heading into the midterms. And there's a lot.
Hey, Alan, I just want to hop in here real quick. This is Mike Olis, Chief of Staff, Progressive Democrats of America. Hey, everybody. Hey, we're also going to be joined at 5 o'clock from New Jersey with Make the Road Executive Director. She'll be with us also at 5 o'clock. So we're going to have a jam-packed call. She'll be on a couple of minutes talking about this big congressional race we want to win on Thursday.
That is absolutely massively huge. And getting Analilia Mejia to win that race. And I did finally see something that looked like a professional journalistic assessment of the race. And yes, Analilia is considered really one of the top four candidates. And one of those four is going to win. And I think Analilia just might be the person who wins if PDA does what it can do, get people making phone calls. And we're going to be all about that right after we hear, as we're going to hear about it now from Mike Fox and our PDA to-dos, then Donna, then the two Texas gentlemen. And welcome to our PDA Town Hall for today. Mike Fox, what are our PDA to-dos?
Thank you, Alan. Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Hot dog. To-do number one, gang, as always, revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it on this call. Every Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, we come together as a community. We build solidarity with each other, and we certainly hope that, bottom line, you are feeling better at the end of this call than when you came in the door, all right? So nothing but positive energy in the space, and thanks, everybody, for your literal healing energy on this call. I'll make this real brief. We got to be on the phones, right? In a big way. From a time and treasure standpoint here, gang, time number one is we got to be on the phone for Analilia in New Jersey 11. We're coming off of this big wave in Texas. Well, that's a safe Democratic district up there, so it's got to be held by the single strongest progressive running in that race. We can make this happen. Now, how you're going to make that happen, literally today, gang, 6 o'clock Eastern. As we wrap this call, 6 o'clock, we're all jumping on the phone bank for Analilia. I'll put the link in the chat where you sign up for that. And so if we can literally roll this call into that phone bank, we'll be making serious, serious noise. Okay. I hope you're in with me. All right. If you can't pile on at 6 o'clock Eastern today, then you're going to go to pdamerica.org/volunteer. Just pick an hour any day. Bang. And we'll get you cooking. All right. So laser focus on bringing it home for New Jersey 11 with Analilia, excuse me. And then from a treasure standpoint, we take great pride here at PDA in the fact that the vast majority of our work gets done by volunteers. It feels right. People on this call take their civic engagement seriously. That's a beautiful thing. However, we got to keep the lights on. And if we aren't hitting our voter outreach goals, then it has to be paid for. So bottom line, just think in terms of an hour or a donation. If you can do both, double do, that's a beautiful thing. Phone bankers, type in the chat that you're a phone banker, invite people in. If you're a double doer, identify yourself as such, invite people in. I'll be tossing the direct link in the chat to make that happen. Or if you don't see that, go to pdamerica.org, hit that donate button, do anything that you can, okay? We'll be back at the top of the hour with where we're at on goals. And everybody, again, 6 o'clock Eastern, we're piling on the phones for Analilia. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much, Mike. And before we go down, I want to remind people that Zeeshan Hafeez is a PDA endorsed candidate for Congress, and we're going to have an opportunity to donate to PDA financially and to split the money with his campaign, as we will be supporting that campaign as well. But we want to also definitely want to raise some money on this call. PDA is hitting its strides really in a great way across the country in 2026, and we need to raise some funds to make sure everything is running smoothly and is well funded, and we have a little bit of a nest egg for potential legal defense. With that, Donna Smith, how you doing, and what's on your mind today?
So, Alan, this is Susan. Donna is a bit under the weather and she sends her regards. She had to hop off, so she apologizes and she hopes to see everybody next week. Okay,
great. Thank you for that, Susan. Susan Gilbert, our co-state coordinator, one of our two state coordinators with Donna in Colorado, our lead state coordinator, Susan Gilbert in Colorado, and one of the PDA staff who gets this show together every week. And so with that, I would like to bring forward again our chief of staff, Mike Ollis, who is going to introduce the two gentlemen from two candidates from Texas. But first, let me just clarify what happened in an election. I believe that was last night. And before the night was over, a victor was declared. And it was Democrat Taylor Remmett in a massive upset in the Fort Worth area of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. And he won in a district that Trump won by 20% in 2024. And he won by 17 points. No, let's see. That's mistaken. He won by 14 points. So it came down from 17 and won by 14 points. That's a 34% swing, folks. And this again speaks to the political climate in the country. And of course, at PDA, we recognize the Democratic Party is winning elections across the country against Republicans, and we support that 100%. Every Democrat right now is preferable, given where the Republican Party is in terms of basically being an authoritarian, anti-Constitution party at this point, an anti-democratic party, small d. And yet, I think we also know that the mainstream of the Democratic Party remains very unpopular with the general public, and it's progressive Democrats that we need to lift up in the primary season. We've got as many of them to win in November, and that is the political formation that is going to renew faith of the people of the United States in the project of our constitutional republic. Mike Ollis, over to you.
Hey, Alan. Good to see you again. Everybody, it is election season. February 1st, 2026 is here. March 3rd, the first primaries hit. And this Thursday, we have a very critical special election also. So It is time to really get down and do the hard organizing it's going to take to win tough elections. And so, two special guests today, but our first guest is going to be Clayton Tucker. Clayton is actually from the place where populism was born. And now in 2026, we're trying to make populism for the progressives and for Democrats the real deal. And so, I think Clayton's campaign embodies all of that hope that we can elect a progressive populist Democrat to a statewide office in Texas, and meanwhile tear apart the gerrymander and the redistricting that's happened there. So, Clayton Tucker, are you with us right now?
I am here. Howdy, y'all.
Hey, Clayton, and are you in Lampasas right now?
I am. And for folks who don't know where Lampasas is, if you can find the center of Texas, you can find Lampasas. We're equally far from everywhere else in Texas.
And so it's appropriate that we're interviewing you, running from the ranch that you hope to take over the leadership of Texas agriculture. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about the office you're seeking? You were with us back in August, and now here we are, in 2026, ready to pull off one of the biggest Democratic comebacks we've had in a long time.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate all the hundreds of folks here taking time out of your Sunday to be with us. I mean, this is really important. This is organizing at work. So as Mike and everyone else has been saying, my name's Clayton Tucker. I am the only Democrat running for Texas Agriculture Commissioner. And what we're going to be doing is really going for affordability. There's a lot of reasons food is so expensive right now. Tariffs get the blame, but the true knife in the back for everyone, from farmers to consumers and everyone else, are monopolies. Four corporations control the entire meat industry. Two, really now one corporation, because Bayer and Monsanto merged, control all of our seeds. Every tomato you buy, doesn't matter the brand, doesn't matter the farm, every single tomato you buy is from one corporation. And that one corporation charges more, their seeds are worth more than gold. Just think about that. These corporations are running roughshod over us. They are destroying family farms. We've lost 250,000 family farms throughout the United States. And it is not just the United States. They're destroying farms in Mexico. They're destroying farms in the Americas. They are destroying farms everywhere because they are monopolizing everything. And they're spreading those tentacles throughout the entire rest of our economy. They're monopolizing vehicles. They're monopolizing everything. And this is the key thing about monopolies. One of the reasons we have to go after them is because no one becomes a billionaire without having a monopoly behind them. Maybe like one or two people become a billionaire, but out of the 900 billionaires, I would guarantee you nearly all of them have a monopoly behind them. We have to go after this concentration of power. And as Texas Agriculture Commissioner, we are going after this concentration of economic power to break these monopolies up. It's starting in ag, but we're not going to end with ag. And also, we are going to be going after the folks, these data centers, these AI data centers that they're building in the most arid parts of our state that are going to jack up all of our water prices. They're going to destroy our electrical grid. Yeah, as Ag Commissioner, we will be going after those too. And kind of, Alan's point, like there's something going on in Texas. The ground is shifting. Texas has always been a hotbed of populism. I'm the blueberry and the strawberry pie of my family. Even all of my family members are extreme economic populist. And a lot of folks are waking up. They're waking up that the current administration, they may talk a populist talk, but they're all full of shit. And people are starting to realize that. So what we're seeing with Taylor Emmett's campaign, that district has not been blue since 1990. No, actually not since 1991, since 1979. That was the last time that district voted for a Democrat. And now it is flipped. And Texas is really, really close to flipping as well. I do believe this will be the year we break through. And the Republicans here are on a house of cards. The moment any one of us punches through, their entire thing falls apart. And when Texas goes, then we can take back the United States. And then we can really start addressing all the issues, the unaffordability, the monopolies, climate, and everything else. We're running out of water. So we will be addressing all those things. If you like what you're hearing, I'm going to be posting something on my website. I'll be posting my website in the link or in the chat. It's just ClaytonTuckerTX.com. We encourage y'all, if you're in Texas, please become a volunteer. Even if you're not in Texas and you're still willing to, help us out virtually, that would be great. We'll also put a donation link. I'm happy to say this campaign has the most momentum of any ag candidate since Jim Hightower. We are completely grassroots funded. I'm saying no to the monopoly money. They can keep their goddamn money. And lastly, the fun little bit. And so for folks who follow me on social media, I have like a bunch of baby goats. Literally, we've had 10 in like the last 2 days. And we had a film crew come over to the ranch today. And right as they got there, a goat just popped out another one. So they got some very organic footage there. But we are holding a naming contest. Y'all get it about 24 hours early. You will not find this on any of our social media, on any of our emails. We are releasing this early just for y'all because of the amazing work PDA has been doing. So if you go to the link I just posted in the chat, or if you don't have access chat, you're just listening in, just find me at ClaytonTuckerTX.com or ClaytonTuckerTX at any social media, and it'll be posted tomorrow. Anyone, we are calling for name suggestions, and whoever name we pick will get a free sticker. So you get something out of it too, plus a lot of baby goats.
Hey, quickly, Mike, let me chime in here with Tucker because obviously you're going to know how to run a race in Texas better than I would ever know. And I don't know if you've been in contact with a guy named Anthony Flacaveno, but he's my co-author on our PDA Rural New Deal proposal. And I'm not recommending that you run on the PDA Rural New Deal proposal because you know what's best for Texas and how to run in Texas. But it is a very strong document with a lot of support that we're building up across the country. And so I want to say this to the PDA people out there. We really got to get Clayton elected because to have Clayton elected, to have a sympathetic leader of one of the second largest state in the country, central to American agriculture, who can look at what's in the Rural New Deal. I mean, we got to put out proposals, have them gain traction across the country, but also have people who are really in where the decisions are made and understanding how the proposals in something like the Rural New Deal really match up with the realities of American society, American agriculture industry, small town and rural America. It's going to be brilliant to have Clayton Tucker win this race this year. So, when you have some free time in between the new births on your farm and running the campaign and everything, if you haven't checked out the PDA Rural New Deal proposal, check it out. It's co-authored with the Rural Urban Bridge Initiative.
Hey, Alan,
huh?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Anthony is on the call with us today.
Oh, Anthony Flacaveno, say a quick hello. We're a little behind on schedule, but Anthony, Clayton, Anthony. But again, I think always the strategy is to not impose our template onto a candidate who knows his turf better than anybody. But it makes for great reading. And of course, we'd love feedback on it, Clayton, Anthony, and I would. The Rural Urban Bridge Initiative is a fantastic organization that PDA is proud to partner with on this and on a bunch of projects. So can we unmute Anthony? You can say a quick hello to Clayton, if that's possible, staff. And we'll get over to the Texas 3030.
He should be able to unmute.
I'm unmuted now. Cool.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm so excited, dude. I'm so excited that you went straight to monopolies. That is so spot on. That's fantastic. I'm thrilled by your campaign. And the Rural New Deal that Alan mentioned has a big chunk of it about taking on monopolies and supporting family farms and independent businesses. So maybe we could trade emails and talk a little bit when you have some time. If you're willing to do that, I would be thrilled because as Alan said, I think a lot of the ideas in the Rural New Deal, there's very, very specific proposals would appeal to you, but your call, of course, but would love to be talking to you.
Well, I'm all about economic populism, and I definitely read bits and pieces, and what I read sounded really good.
Oh,
I did
cool.
put my good campaign email that is
Great.
actually regularly monitored and regularly responded to in the chat.
I
And
see
for
it.
any folks who also likes this whole bus monopolies, all of our bumper stickers are issue based, so we actually do have a bus monopolies bumper sticker. So even if
Right.
you're not in Texas and you just want to talk about busing monopolies, we try to have fun with this campaign.
Nice.
So I did put the link in for the Rural New Deal, and everything you said too, Clayton, about monopolies. My sense is those must be very popular positions with the Texas general public. I mean, I know that Texas does have its tradition of monopolies, of course, and has fueled some of the state's wealth. Of course, one of the most famous monopolies was in the oil industry, and it's a de facto monopoly. It has been for decades with very few companies. and that's a huge industry in Texas. And of course, you mentioned agriculture and the four big corporations. But I mean, it really is the big money of the monopolies against somebody who has actually a vision for agriculture that the population would
Mhm.
agree with, right? Is that your sense?
Yeah, I mean, I was on it's kind of funny. I went to a conservative talk. It was an AM talk radio show. It's in Midland, Texas, right in the middle of the Permian Basin. I walk in, giant portraits of Trump. I was like, oh, here we go. And it was actually a really fantastic conversation because
Right.
again, is just you hammer economic populism. Economic populism is the key. It is the only way we are going to win. Bernie is really great at that. PDA is really great at that. The Democratic Party, at least, well, the Texas Democratic Party is fully awake to that. The Texas Progressive Caucus did a lot of great work there. The National Party, we still have some work to do there, but one step at a time. What I will what I will say, and I'm happy to end with this little story, is, it was the 1870s, 5 miles away from my family ranch in Lampasas. A group of Texans got together and they were just mad at the robber barons. Three men owned half of the wealth of the country. Monopolies destroyed family farms. They destroyed family businesses. The big tech of the era, the railroads, was running roughshod. And even the federal government was literally deploying the military against civilians, literally killing civilians in the street. Does any of this ring a bell? Well, they got together and they launched the entire populist movement. And that became the People's Party, the Populist Party. They tried to join the Republicans under Theodore Roosevelt, but they got kicked out once Theodore Roosevelt went bull moose. And then we eventually took over the Democratic Party through FDR, through the New Deal, and we achieved everything that right now the modern GOP is trying to defund, that is trying to destroy. We defeated the oligarchy before. This is America's second Gilded Age, and we will beat these bastards again.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Anthony, for jumping in there for a second. And I hope you guys have a great dialogue. But Clayton Tucker, again, folks, this is a campaign we got to get behind. We'll be doing it officially through our 501c4, Progressives for Democracy in America, because it's not a federal race. But this is a hugely important race. And of course, as Clayton mentioned, the great Jim Hightower was the last statewide elected Democratic official as this position that Clayton is running for. And again, actually, wait, Mike, we'll introduce the congressional candidate in a second. But I have one final question for you, Clayton. I mean, so your assessment is Texas. I mean, you figure the large Latino population, the polls among Latino Americans, I know in this part of the country have swung massively away from the way they had moved towards Trump back to the Democrats, overwhelmingly so in California.
Mm-hmm.
Has that happened in Texas? And would that even just by itself basically make it a 50-50 state? And I imagine this elsewhere in the country, the unpopularity of Trump's Republican Party is it's gaining traction. So it's really in play that Texas is in play.
Yeah, a lot of the Latino, from what I've seen and what I've heard conversations on the ground, a lot of the Latino, particularly the Latino male population, is having some buyer's remorse.
Mm.
And one of the recent polls I saw is, the Texas Republicans are, they reject gerrymander everything. They try to rig the election. That actually might really blow back in their face, because if what happened in Taylor Remit's campaign, that 30-point shift, happened come November, a lot of those, red districts are no longer so red. So they just, the gerrymandering might end up biting them in the ass a bit.
Brilliant. Well, it's going to be great working with you over the next few months and then onwards once you're a statewide office holder, which is going to be brilliant. Thank you so much. And back to you, Mike Olis.
And Clayton, great to see you. Clayton and I worked together for a long time, and we've done some Texas road trips together. So can't wait to get on the Texas road trip trail and do that San Antonio to El Paso to Dallas to Houston drive we've done together. So awesome seeing you, Clayton, and we'll get some goat farming tips here in our next call. So Clayton, everybody, let's get ready for Clayton. He doesn't have an opponent. His opponents look like there's some infighting going on the Republican side. So that's kind of interesting, and because Clayton's putting too much pressure on him, and they're starting to fold.
Yeah, when Greg Abbott calls you corrupt, it's pretty bad.
So
and don't forget the naming contest, folks. So got some Beautiful new people sharing the earth, animals sharing the earth with us, and they need names. So let's chime in on that too. Take it away, Mike.
Hey, now we're gonna go up to the back to the Dallas Fort Worth Metro. Uh, Zeeshan Hafeez has joined us. We're endorsing Zeeshan as we get ready to ramp up for the Texas primary, which votes March 3rd, but early voting starts here in about 2 weeks, I think. So, Zeeshan, are you out there?
Hmm.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, and so nice to connect and thank you for your race. Now, Texas 33 is a bit different because this is a sadly a product of deep gerrymandering, and you are running in this very deep blue district, and they packed as many Democrats as they can into this district. But we got three contenders in the race. Two of them are as corporate Democrat, establishment Democrat as you get. And then there's your campaign, Sean. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about this district, and how do progressives pull ahead here and defeat the establishment in Texas 33?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me, and Mike and team. Thank you for the amazing work that you all are doing for progressives all across the country. I think that this is a fundamental thing that that the Progressive Democrats of America are doing. They're fighting for progressives all across the country, and so I love what you guys are doing. I was on a call a few months ago with you all as well, and it's just great to be in such an amazing community. Great to be with people like Clayton, who I know are fighting the good fight across Texas to turn Texas blue. I think everyone says that Texas is a red state. I think Texas is a low voter state, and that then goes directly into my race. My race, as you asked, a little bit of details about my race. In 2024, there was only a total of 22,000 votes in the Democratic primary. 22,000 total votes. It's one of the lowest turnout primaries in the entire country. In 2022, there was only 24,000 votes. This is the exact scenario that allows for a progressive challenger who's standing on the right side of history, on the right side of issues, to come in and win. A little bit about my background. I originally, my entry into politics happened my first year of college. I got involved in the Democratic Party back then. My first year of college was 2001. 9/11 happened, and one day I went from making friends and being a part of the best part of my life to the next day becoming public enemy number one, someone whose smiles turned to frowns, looked with apprehension, being called a terrorist. It was a big change. So I got involved with the Democratic Party. I got involved with the NAACP. I joined the NAACP and created Sarasota Openly Addresses Racism. I joined the anti-war movement. I created a diversity and gender center at my college. I focused in on what can we do to be productive. I created a multi-faith council to discuss similarities instead of the differences that tear us apart as a country. I decided to get my poli-sci degree and then went to law school. I went to law school at Georgetown to study public policy. I worked at the Harrison Institute of Public Policy in Washington, D.C., where I focused in on labor and workers' rights. I directly worked with the AFL-CIO and the International Labor Organization for labor, because through our nation's history, labor has been on the right side of history, and labor is something that right now is being put on the side burner, where we need people that are going to advocate and fight for labor rights. As an individual, from there, I ran for office originally 15 years ago, or actually 16 years ago now, in the year after Obama was first elected, and we all remember that was a big red wave, and obviously I was running as a Democrat then as well. And then I met my wife, and we decided to start a family. I got my MBA from the University of Virginia, and from there I worked in technology. I worked at Microsoft, Google, and in the technology space for the last decade. And now October 7th happened, and October 7th was the second major date that really woke me back up. October 7th is the date when it was a great tragedy that occurred, but at the same time, the tragedy also happened before October 7th and now after October 7th. We are witnessing the worst genocide in our modern history, a genocide that is being fully funded by the U.S. government, a genocide that most of our elected officials are completely signing on to, and we are being complicit in, and a genocide which my congressman at the time, when I first launched this race, said that Gaza was good for the economy. Now, that congressman has since retired, and he is out. But after I had joined the race many months ago, after redistricting, Julie Johnson and Colin Allred joined the race. Well, they have taken a combined $700,000 from AIPAC and the pro-Israel lobby. So it's no surprise that they refused to sign on to the key progressive values which make this country what it is. As you mentioned earlier, Mike, this is a plus 32 district that Kamala Harris won. We don't need a centrist, moderate Democrat to represent us in District 33. We need a true blue progressive who's going to fight for a boldly progressive agenda. And what does that mean? Not only are we going to fight for a living wage of at least $20 to $25 an hour, indexed to inflation, indexed to cost of living based off of different parts of the country, we're going to fight for Medicare for all. Not because Medicare is medical care is something that's a privilege. It is a right. We need to establish it as a right for our people. We need to fight for affordable housing. Bernie Sanders proposed a great piece of legislation that's been dying for a long time. I hope to reinvigorate this piece of legislation that's guided to build 14 million affordable housing units across the country. The real crisis in this country, the real war we should be fighting, is the war on poverty. The affordability crisis. These are the crises of our country. We shouldn't be fighting wars with Venezuela or a war with Iran or Syria. That's not what we should be focusing in on. Our energy should be focusing on making America better. All these Republicans say they're make America great again thing. None of them are trying to make America better. If anything, they're making America worse. They're turning people against each other. We look at ICE and what ICE has done recently. ICE has literally gone and recruited people from the white supremacy movement, given them $50,000 signing bonuses, given them six-figure salaries, and given them masks without IDs, without uniforms, without badges, and unmarked cars, and they're terrorizing communities of color. And now they're killing our fellow Americans on the streets. Well, we need to not only abolish ICE. I said abolish ICE many months ago, and I was told I was extreme. Now I think abolishing ICE is a moderate stance. We need to prosecute and abolish ICE, and qualified immunity for all police officers or anyone that's actually committing any crime. There's no multiple judicial system in our country. If you commit a crime against anyone, you should be held accountable. We need accountability. We need immigration's accountability in this nation. On top of that, we need to invest in free public education. And what I mean by that is we need to invest in teacher salaries. What I just mentioned to you, the signing bonus for an ICE agent is $50,000. A teacher is lucky to get a $1,000 signing bonus in this country. That is absurd. Our priorities are completely backwards. And while an ICE agent makes well over six figures, a teacher is lucky to start with a $50,000 salary. This is unacceptable. Teachers are struggling to survive in this affordability crisis. That should be the focus of our Congress. And then we look at things like the Patriot Act, another vestige of 9/11. The only reason ICE is still here is because it was created during 9/11, when the country was under attack, when there was terror. That was when these organizations were created. We have multiple organizations that deal with immigration enforcement. We need to end the Patriot Act, and we need to end mass surveillance. And that's why I'm also proposing a digital Bill of Rights to fight for all Americans to provide privacy, provide security of their data, and also fight against AI. Lastly, what I'll say is this. We need to take care of our seniors and our veterans. We need to raise Social Security benefits by a minimum of $200 a month by raising the cap on Social Security, and we need to take care of our veterans. Instead of creating new veterans by launching new wars and creating new people that are suffering from PTSD and go to VAs that are severely underfunded, we need to correctly fund our VAs and take care of the veterans who came into this country and did so much for us. So we need people basically that are going to fight for a true blue progressive agenda and a Green New Deal. I know we were just talking about your rural New Deal. I'm obviously strongly in favor of a Green New Deal to provide a sustainable future, to provide new jobs, to provide a green infrastructure for our country. But I also want to make sure that we end the corporate control of our government, and that means an end to Citizens United. I think the time for corporations, the time for the billionaires and the oligarchs and their control of our government, the two corporatist Democrats that I'm running against, their time is over. Now it's time for us, all of us, the true progressives that are going to save this nation from the authoritarian takeover by Donald Trump and his cronies. But I'm very happy to be here and happy to answer any of your questions.
Yes, let's try to take some questions. We have about another 12 minutes before the top of the hour. And Zeeshan, I was doing some quick social media research. And I saw that one of your opponents, Julie Wilson, says she's against ICE, but then but she's like trading the stock of one of the big ICE, the ICE vendors. Is that right? One of the big ICE contractors?
Yeah, I try not to be too negative on my opponents. I try to, but the thing is, it is true. The Texas Tribune just announced 3 days ago or 2 days ago in a major article that Julie Johnson, who sits on the Committee on Homeland Security, who originally proposed right when she entered Congress, she's the vice chair. She actually proposed a piece of legislation that would have added to funding for ICE. It would have increased ICE salaries through 2028. It would have also increased ICE agents' benefits through 2027. This same congressperson made $4.2 million from trading Palantir stocks alone, a specific contract that was earned by ICE during her time in Congress. This person is now worth, I think, over $47 million, one of the most active stock traders in Congress. The problem is she keeps flip-flopping. She recently saying now she's going to sell off her stocks because she's been caught, and she just recently signed on to the congressional stock trading ban. But this is the same person who, for a long time, was a very ardent opponent of Medicare for All because of the money that she received from United Healthcare and the healthcare lobby. And then recently she signed on to Medicare for All after she saw a progressive challenger in her race. It was only after she signed up for this race in District 33 that she finally signed up for Medicare for All. For a long time, she was a very moderate person because she was running in a normal, very closely blue versus red district. Now she's in a super blue district, so she's trying to change her positions. It is unfortunate. We shouldn't have anyone.
Alan has his hand raised. Alan, do you want to take it over? And
well, I mean, stay close, Mike, of course, but yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of questions around the logistics of this race. So the way the Texas primary works for people out of Texas is that they're open primaries, and now in a heavily blue district, you could actually have a lot of independents and maybe even Republicans in the district chiming in on the race, which again is sort of what Clayton said. There could be some sort of populist-leaning Republicans who recognize that the moderate Democrats are wretched, and people who want to, actually create a just economy are the progressive Democrats. So maybe that can even draw people in from that group. But they're open primaries, but you have to get a majority. And so if nobody gets a majority, there'll be a runoff. And then this is one of the more unique primaries in this sense that it's going to happen in this country because you actually are running against two incumbents, right? You had Colin Allred, who, prominent figure in Texas Democratic politics, was a former Dallas Cowboy player, right? And then you mentored that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Now he was on the Texans, I think, the Oilers for a few years. I mean, he recorded 46 tackles in
yeah, not a big play, but just the novelty of the fact of Texas guy,
yeah.
Democrat.
Texas loves their football, you know that.
Oh, for sure. And so he stepped down from being the incumbent to run for Senate, which he did in 2024. And he was running for Senate this year again, but when Jasmine Crockett got in the race, he dropped out to then challenge the woman who won, as you are doing, won the district, became the member of Congress in the district after he had left the seat. And so you have two incumbents, which means you have a very real chance of nobody getting 50% in the primary with two major candidates and a real progressive. And we at PDA are all about having a whole country recognize there's a distinction between a true progressive and a moderate Democrat. They're constantly, as AOC said about Joe Biden, other countries wouldn't be in the same political party. We were in the same political party. We are representative of what I think are the majoritarian politics of the American people. So we got to do everything we can to lift up your candidacy, and you have a real shot of getting into a runoff. And the runoff is like a few weeks later, right?
Yes.
If a runoff happens. And there's a fourth candidate, but there's a real shot of you, not only those guys splitting the moderate vote, but you possibly getting ahead of one of them and getting into a runoff. So I know there are these two prominent people who might think that your race isn't going to have traction, but everybody listening right now is a real pathway to victory for your candidacy. And if you get into the final two, the difference between you and the moderate Democrat will be amplified to everybody in the constituency. And I think there's a real great shot there. So, I just wanted to lay that out. Hopefully I got all the facts right. And, what do you have to say about Allred? Obviously you spoke about the incumbent, and what are your thoughts on him and also say a little bit about the district. It's right. It is sort of a winding district inside the, one of the largest population centers in the whole country in Dallas-Fort Worth. Yeah.
So I think it's worth telling you a little bit more about the district and why this is so winnable. One, the median age is 32. This is a young district where young people have never voted because they've never had anyone to vote for. This is a district that's 78% minority majority. Over 55% of the district is Latino. There is a good population of African Americans, a good population of Asian Americans. And there's a lot of people that are not only anti-war, but they're anti-genocide. And both of my opponents, including Colin Allred, have been very staunch supporters of Israel, unfortunately. And so they're looking for an option. And unfortunately, Colin and Julie are two of the same token. And the reality is, On
Right.
December 9th, after Colin entered the race, Julie Johnson launched her first attack ad. And then on December 10th, Colin launched his first attack ad on Julie. And they have continued to fight each other. And that's great. They're not even worried about the progressive in the race because they have beef and they're going after the same candidate, the people. We are expanding the electorate. We are trying to bring in people that would never voted by giving them a good reason to vote, progressives across many different organizations, and we're exciting people. We're getting endorsements not only from PDA, but we got Progressive Victory. We've gotten endorsements from some key officials that are local. We've gotten over like 20 different endorsements from national organizations. Organizations are actually investing resources into our campaign. We were on Breaking Points last week, and people are starting to learn more about our campaign. When people see where we stand versus they stand, they actually see a big difference. One thing I will say that's very important about progressives is we focus on real solutions. We focus on finding the answer to problems. We are not the party of anti-Trump. Julie and Colin are basically anti-Trump. Go to their websites. Everyone always says, mention your website. Go to juliejohnson.com. Go to colinallred.com. Go see what their websites look like. I'll just explain to you for those that don't want to do it. All there is a contribution page. Nothing else. Oh, volunteer page. Julie Johnson, same thing. She has a thing on there called Fact Checked, and it doesn't even work. Our website has every single issue outlined for about 15 different policies, and it also has a chart that explains where we stand against Colin and Julie. Since they won't tell you where they stand, we'll tell you where they stand. And those are all researched based off of their votes. And unfortunately, their votes are on the wrong side of history. And to be honest, in a time when we have fascism that's facing our government, a person who's trying to turn this into his personal authoritarian regime, that is not going to be attacked by a centrist. We need people that are bold progressives that are going to save our American democracy. And there is a real threat to our country. So people are seeing that, and people are getting excited. And our ground game is very strong. Our field operation is where we're spending all our money. And although we don't have the millions that Julie and Colin have, we're at about 350 something raised. So we've raised a decent amount last quarter, which was a pretty strong quarter for us. And so we're building the resources. We've been in this race longer than we're the only candidate that actually lives in the district. Julie and Colin do not live in the district. A lot of people don't like them because of their stances on a number of different issues. And we're fighting for a true populist agenda. And it's across the board. We've also gotten the endorsements of a very key pastor in the community, Reverend Haynes, who's running in District 30. I hope you all will look him up as well. He's a true blue progressive. We're co-endorsing each other. He's running in Texas 30. I'm running in Texas 33. We're the progressive power duo in North Texas. And hopefully we'll go to Congress together to launch a very bold progressive agenda.
There was a upstart candidate in a recent American election that I was very involved with, and actually our 501c4 ran a poll in largest city in the country, and it was the poll where this guy had been at 1%, and all of a sudden he moved up to 4%, and I got flooded with calls from the New York press about him. And by the way, he has already expanded childcare in New York City. So again, this is a model that excites people. You are super sharp at articulating anything you're going to speak about. So imagine you're fantastic on policy and the details of policy. And I think people can really catch on across the country. And if you can deliver to Dallas, the people in Metro Dallas, this message of progressive politics, constitutionally different than the Democratic Party that they reject. You see the public opinion polls for the Democratic Party. Nobody, I know, look, Mickey Sherrill won in New Jersey, great. And Spanberger won in Virginia. And the mainstream Democrats tried to present it like they were co-equal with Mamdani's victory. On the enthusiasm plane, everything was in Mamdani's camp, and there was almost none in the other two. These are ideas that excite people, and you're right on everything the PDA is about right now. So very much look forward to working with you. And Mike Olis, I don't think we had time for questions from the audience. I will say this, by the way, we're going to try to give you a big boost up in New Jersey on 11th, because this is a special election for, I suppose the name's called Mikey Sherrill, is the way they pronounce it in Jersey. Mikey Sherrill's district. She was in the House. She's now the governor. There's a special election on Thursday. Only in Jersey they run these things on Thursday. And we are supporting Analilia Mejia, who was Bernie Sanders' political director in 2020. And she's got a great shot at winning this. And that will set the table. If Analilia, everybody listening right now, we're going to be making calls for her race for the next 4 days, really concentrating on it, because if she can win that, that's going to send a message across the country about progressives like yourself, just, really getting, letting the country know and Democrats across the country it's time to shift the Democratic Party to the politics that the Democratic base wants and the American people want. Mike Olis, a final question for, and I'm so sorry, I always want to get people's names right, and I always get people's names wrong. So it's Zeeshan Hafeez, right? Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Okay. Yeah. And Mike Olis.
Hey, I gotta ask a question. Last question, from one of our PDA activists, and she's asking, how do we keep planning? How do we plan to keep seniors in their homes, especially when mortgage companies right now are jacking with mortgage payments, trying to steal the equity of a lot of older folks, right? And so, yeah, any thoughts on how we help our seniors out as you get ready to win this March and go on to Congress?
No, so I think that our seniors are someone that are being left behind. Our seniors are being left behind by our right-wing Republican extremists who are taking away from their basic necessities. They're trying to privatize Social Security. They're trying to decrease Social Security benefits when we should be, like I mentioned earlier, increasing Social Security benefits by a minimum of $200 a month by raising the cap on Social Security. But on top of that, we need to get rid of crazy things that are in the place. Right now, seniors are being taxed on their Medicare benefits. It's insane. Why are you getting taxed on health care that you're getting from the government? That just doesn't make any sense. So they're struggling with that. They're struggling with prescription drug prices. I think that we need to do something that even in America we produce prescription drugs. These drugs then go to other countries in the world where the countries are paying significantly less than what they're paying here. The fact is that Donald Trump and the extreme right wing of the Republican Party has literally declared war on everyone except for the white supremacists. If you're a woman, if you're a minority, if you're an immigrant, if you're Muslim, if you're a senior, literally every single, I could go on for 10 minutes and label every single individual that's basically been declared war on by Donald Trump and the right wing of the Republican Party. And that is where organizations like the Progressive Democrats of America, the people that are on this call, can not only save the American democracy, but they can truly fight a good fight to make this country better. Because not only are we fighting to save our democracy, but we're fighting for real solutions that are going to make the lives of the Americans who are suffering so much due to the affordability crisis that much better. So I encourage everyone to go visit my website, www.zeeshanfortexas.com. My election actually is on February 17th. That is the early voting date. So we're only a couple of weeks away. The actual final primary day is March 3rd. I'm looking for time, talent, and treasure. Those are the key three things that we need for any candidate to be successful. And we're getting a lot of people to volunteer. Hundreds and hundreds of people have already started to volunteer with us. We're canvassing. We're going out door to door. We're making phone calls so you can phone bank with us. We are texting folks. We are using every single resource that we can to build, like you said, a Zoran campaign. Hey, if Zoran can win in New York, Zeeshan can win in Texas 33. That's the message we want to send to everyone else. We are running a very similar campaign to Zoran. We're actually getting support from DSA as well. We hope to announce that soon. And we are running a very similar true blue, true progressive campaign. Because at the end of the day, in a plus 32 district in Texas, if there's any place we need a bold progressive, that's where we need them. We don't need another corporatist, centrist, moderate Democrat that's not going to do anything for the American people. So Zeeshan Hafeez running in District 33, ZeeshanForTexas.com, and you can follow us on any social media at Zeeshan for Texas. Really appreciate each and every one of you and would love to get you all involved in the campaign. And thank you all for being on this call, for trying to save the American democracy, for fighting for progressive values and fighting the good fight, because we need you more now than ever before. And one last thing I'll say is this. The last ask I have is please, please, please recruit more people to join PDA. This call should be so full that we have to move from Zoom to some other resource because there's so many progressives across the country that want to save the American democracy. So I encourage you all, please, please, please invite your friends to join PDA, to invest in PDA, to give money to PDA, and help PDA fight the good fight and save our country and save America. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Zeeshan. If you don't know the history too, just to say, and for everybody on the call who maybe doesn't know, obviously our famous political intervention in the history of American politics was we were the sole national organization to draft Bernie Sanders to run for president in 2016 as a Democrat, launching the Run Bernie Run campaign in 2013. And you are right. It is time we lift this up, get everybody signed on to this. go state by state, district by district, electing candidates like Zeeshan, Hafeez in Texas is 33, and more power to you. And this is going to be a great next few weeks as we get the word out to the people in your district. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you all.
Oh yeah, likewise, man. And Mike Olis and Mike Fox and Greg Palast. But Mike Olis, I do believe you said we actually have a Greg, bear with me here because we're going to focus primarily on your message over the next 25 minutes. And I know you got a radio interview at the bottom of the hour, but we do have somebody here from a New Jersey organization too to motivate people to support Analilia's campaign. Greg has a radio interview, so he has to be off at 2:28. Can we shift over to
Yeah, I'm not
Analilia?
seeing her on the call yet, so if we want to move to Greg, and then we'll
and let's try to get around. Let's try to get around for
a quick interruption, but yeah, let's keep it going.
Yeah, to 2:28. Let's try to get her on. And Mike Fox, if you can very quickly summarize where we stand on the PDA to-dos. And Greg Palast, who was not announced for this, of course, is absolutely legendary, groundbreaking, trailblazing journalist, independent journalist in America, who probably has done more breakthrough investigations on the right-wing attacks on democracy in the United States than any living person. And he is just an absolute resource for all of us who want to live in a democratic society as we move into an election that all of us have a strong suspicion is going to be the most egregiously interfered with election in all likelihood of anything that we've witnessed as a national election. Of course, the midterms are national. All 435 congressional districts are up for a vote. And we expect there's going to be major interference. And there's no voice who has more insight into that than Greg Palast. But before we get to Greg, Mike, if you can just summarize our PDA to-dos as quickly as you can, then we'll hear Greg's take on where things stand and what we need to be focused on in terms of protecting our democracy right now.
Indeed, I'm going to slam through our thank yous. Many thanks to the following people who have donated today: Linda, Lori, Valerie, Cynthia, Cheryl, phone banker Maggie, Paul, Dr. Bill, phone banker Leslie, Nina, phone banker Mary, Karen, Jody, Amanda, phone banker Michael, Russell, up in Massachusetts, Darwin, John, Bob, Paula, phone banker Mary, double doing as well, Deborah, Karen, Carolyn, phone banker Mary Ellen, and phone banker Mary, phone banker Lois, Neil, Beth, phone banker Beverly, phone banker Dr. Sonnenborn, phone banker Michael, phone banker Maggie again, Bob again, phone banker Aaron, and of course, Dorothy with your more than kind $100 donation. Thank you so much all. And right now we are at about 12 short on our goal for new phone bankers. I'll be tossing that link into the chat. And most importantly, I'll be tossing into the chat the link to the phone bank for Analilia that will be at 6 o'clock Eastern, gang. We're going to jump off of this call and pile right on into that. If you don't see the link, email Mike Fox at pdamerica.org. If you do not see the donation link, go to pdamerica.org and do the same for the volunteer. And we'll be back after we wrap with Greg to see where we're at on our goals. Back to you, Alan.
Hey, Alan, real quick. I'm going to hop in here real quick. Nedja, Mike Fox, Nedja Morsi is with us, excuse me. And she's going to be talking about our New Jersey update. So if you could get her upgraded to speaking once we're done with Greg. Thank you.
Oops. I can't hear you.
Alan, you're muted.
Okay.
Mike, can she follow Greg at 2:28?
Yeah, I'll gonna try to make that happen. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks. And thank you for your patience, who's joined us from Jersey. Now, I did want to put into the chat one more time the split donation link for Zeeshan's campaign. So if you donate there, we will be, of course, supporting with infrastructure his campaign. So you have a split donation to PDA and to his campaign. And that's a great way to donate this week. And Greg Palast. For people who don't know the groundbreaking work that Greg Palast has done, I actually was working on a documentary film. I worked on two documentary films around the Florida election theft. One was with Joan Seckler and Richard Perez, which I only played a background role on because I was with the LA Independent Media Center. That was one of the sponsors of that project, but also with an independent Black filmmaker about the disruptions that occurred on election day in the Black community. And actually, what Richard in Jones' film really focused on was the groundbreaking work of Greg Palast. And Greg basically solved the riddle of how the Katherine Harris, Jeb Bush led Republican Party stole the state of Florida for George Bush in 2000, along with the butterfly ballot and all that stuff. But what's even more, well, that's one of course, hugest events in American history, actually, for all that followed from it, including the fact that Al Gore, the environmentalist, didn't win, but the oil companies won. What followed then in the coming decades was that model was carried over to other states, led by, in particular, a character named Chris Kobach out of Kansas. And the Republican vote suppression strategy, Greg Palast was like the lead just researcher and person bringing this forward to the American public. And the moderate Democratic Party, the dominant Democratic Party at the time, they would barely ever talk about it. And they knew about it, but they wouldn't talk about it because they had some ridiculous notion that people would be discouraged from voting if they knew the truth of how their votes were being suppressed. So Greg really trailblazed all that. And now we're at a moment where I have two questions for you, Greg, at the top. One, let people know about the event in Chicago that is coming up that you're here to tell us about for people who are in the Chicago area. And second, that kind of approach, the Chris Kobach, Katherine Harris approach, how prominent will that be as a component of what Trump is doing? Or is this going to be something even more where something along the lines of ICE agents at polling places, intimidating people? What do you see for 2026? And this won't be hitting in the primaries. This is going to be hitting in the general in November. So what are you anticipating, and what can we do to stop it? Yeah.
The answer is yes. If you can you hear me, by the way? The answer is yes. They're going to use new methods. They're bringing back some old tricks from all the way from 2000 with Katherine Harris, Chris Kobach, Crosscheck, etc. So here's what we're doing. We're having a entertaining, organizing event that will be nationally broadcast, but will be based in Chicago. If you're in the Chicagoland area this Thursday, I want you to go to the Universalist Unitarian Church in Hinsdale, the UU Church in Hinsdale at 6:30 p.m. I will be there live with the great Richard Chu of WCPT. If you're in Chicago, you certainly know Richard. And we'll be there to screen the latest version of my film, Vigilantes, Inc., America's new vote suppression hitmen. And by the way, Chicago Tribune says that this work is Greg Palast at his funniest, but it's also the best journalism with entertainment at its best. So this will be, and we'll have popcorn there. So it's a movie, but then we're going to have a discussion. Now, and then if you are not in the Chicagoland area, this event is being sponsored by Indivisible online nationwide. Go to Mobilize Us. They start at 6 p.m. with a pre-discussion on Thursday. Mobilize Us. And if you're confused by any of this, just go to gregpalast.com, GREGPALAST. Why should you see this movie? Were you not around this week when they invaded, when Trump and Blondie, or I suppose Biondi, had, with Tulsi Gabbard, raided the elections office in Fulton County? Let me hip you to this. First of all, the film will be screening, Vigilantes, Inc. Half of it takes place in Fulton County. Fulton County is the heart and soul of Atlanta, Black Atlanta. That's not a minor issue. And all the vote thieving trickery is first given a test drive in Georgia and then springs out nationwide. And that's what's happening here. Here's why they went into that office. Major media has it wrong. Trump did not raid that office and ask for the 2020 ballots because he just can't get over losing the election. He wants to prove he won. I'm sure that's true, but that's not what it's about. Whether it's Mark Elias or the voting officials and the NAACP, Rainbow Push, the groups I'm working with out of Atlanta right now, they're saying this is about 2026 and 2028. They're taking their new trickery out and their old tricks, bring them back in a test drive. What are they doing? They've asked for the physical ballots and envelopes from the 2020 election. Now, why are they bothering? Because at the center of this discussion is, to begin with, is one word. And the one word, Alan, and the one word to you all is drop boxes, unless you hyphenate it or make it two words. But it's drop boxes. So what happened is that in 2020, Fulton County drop boxes were the reason Donald Trump lost, because it was during COVID and they spread drop boxes all over the place, mailed out ballots to every citizen of Georgia, and making it easy to vote meant that Biden took the state. John Ossoff won for Senate. So did Reverend Raphael Warnock won. 3 Democrats and 2 progressive senators from the deep red state, of supposedly red state of Georgia. It just proves without vote suppression, Georgia is a blue state. Now, what do drop boxes have to do with it? Well, for those of you who haven't seen it, don't. It's called 2,000 Mules. This is the basis of the attack on drop boxes. If they don't close those drop boxes, restrict drop box voting, Georgia is lost to the Democrats. The Democrats will lose Texas. They'll lose Arizona. They will lose Michigan, and they could lose Minnesota. So how does this happen? What is this all about? The film 2,000 Mules, which was launched by Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Right. And again, you don't have to watch it because a little bit of it is right inside my film, Vigilantes, Inc., which you're going to see online or at the church in Hinsdale on Thursday. Now, in this film, which was launched at Mar-a-Lago, they call 2,000 mules because they're saying 2,000 black men. Just think about that. They call black men mules. And it is black men. They're very clear about that. 2,000 black men were paid $10 each for each illegal forged fake ballot that they stuffed into a drop box. And this whole film is proving that black men did this. Now, why would black men risk? This is a felony crime. Sticking an illegal ballot. It's very difficult. You have to forge ballot. You got to find a correct ballot. Why would they commit a felony crime? Because these black men were taking $10 a piece from George Soros and Mark Zuckerberg to steal the election. Now, Zuckerberg's a Republican, but forget that. The important thing to them is that they were able to mix their racism with their anti-Semitism to say that Soros and Zuckerberg paid black men to commit this crime. But here's the weird thing. They're paying them to commit this crime on camera, because every single drop box in Georgia and just about every other state that I know of keeps a video camera pointed at the voter as they're putting the ballot in. So they use this. And those videos, by the way, are public. We can watch them. Anyone can watch them. They took those videos of black men sticking ballots in a ballot box. And in one case, for example, they kept showing the same guy over and over again. And there was Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you know who he is, but anyway, there was Charlie Kirk and Prager and all these right-wing guys and Dinesh D'Souza. And they're saying, literally, it's a quote from their film, which is in my film. They're saying, oh, look, there's O.J. Simpson leaving the scene of a crime. They're comparing this black voter, and all he is doing is sticking the couple envelopes in the drop box. Now, he drops a couple on the ground. Oh, there he is. He's stuffing in extra ballots. No, he wasn't. The guy's name, as it turns out, is Mark Andrews, an executive with Verizon in Atlanta. And he was putting in his ballot like a good American, and his wife's ballot and his adult kid's ballot like a good American, which Georgia law actually encourages you to bring in your family's ballots to the ballot boxes. And so the only thing that was there was a black man. You'll see Latasha Brown of Black Voters Matter in the film say, what? They're just seeing a black man do his citizen duty of voting, and he's already being compared to a murderer. And they claim that thousands of black men did this. They claim that Mark Andrews stuffed ballots into 28 different ballot boxes. So what they're trying to prove, they want to prove that there's 70,000 fake ballots cast by black men in Atlanta. And we bust that in this film in detail. Now, you might say it's foolish, but no one's laughing right now, because here's the story that you have to understand, which is that if they lose, if the Republicans can block the vote in Fulton County, they win it. They can take a big piece of Atlanta, big piece of Savannah, and win Georgia, knock out John Ossoff in 26 so they can keep control of the Senate. Democrats cannot win the Senate without Ossoff's reelection. And I'm not talking about whether I'm for or against Ossoff. I'm talking about the fact that maybe the voters should make that decision and not Pam Bondi. Sorry. And so here's what else is going on. If they can, so they're getting these ballots. Understand, you cannot fake a drop-in mailbox ballot. Look at your mail-in vote. Look at the envelope. There's a barcode on it. Right. Every barcode. And that barcode doesn't say, oh, this is an absentee ballot. They know that. It has your name and identification in that barcode, unless you can get a new barcode and a special ballot. Now, understand, hey, if there's a crime committed with illegal ballots, so you can't just like photocopy a ballot, stuff it in the ballot box. So the Republican Party, the Republicans went through every single mail-in, every single drop box ballot. They didn't find one, and this is Republicans, didn't find one extra unaccounted for ballot. No one voted twice. No one. There is not a single report of anyone's ballot being stolen and voted for them. They literally were hunting. As you know, Trump demanded that they find 11,781 votes so he could win. That's where they're trying to find them, in those ballot box envelopes. And of course, since they've already been reviewed by the Republicans and the Democrats, been reviewed totally ballot by ballot twice. What's important is that this disease is spreading nationwide. So you'll see in Vigilantes Inc., I go to Texas, where Rodney Ellis, the first black man who, commissioner of Houston, arranged to have during COVID, like in Georgia, every ballot, everyone in Houston, which has, by the way, the largest black voting population in America. He was sending out 2.5 million ballots.
Of any county, I think.
Yeah.
Harris County.
He's Harris County. It's of any county in America. Now, so what happened was Ken Paxton, the guy's running for Senate, by the way, and he was attorney general, impeached as attorney general for corruption. Ken Paxton gets on Steve Bannon's show and crows, and you'll see this in the film too. He crows, I was able to go to court and stop Houston from sending its voters mail-in ballots during COVID. Remember, so, the idea was to stop people from dying by having to wait in line 5 hours during COVID. He said, if I hadn't stopped the ballots being mailed out in Houston, Donald Trump would have lost Texas.
Right.
Texas. Now, that's not a small thing. And that same goes for Arizona. If you close off the drop box, and we show in the film, for example, in Arizona. So what's happened that they had militiamen in full riot gear and automatic weapons standing around ballot boxes in Arizona. So many that there's 50 teams of defenders who are being sent out, 50 at a time, to 50 different locations to stop this intimidation. It's not a minor incident here and there. It's systemic. This is a danger. So I'm concentrating on the ballot drop boxes. And some of this you might find in the film kind of very funny because it's so ridiculous. But the reason we're not laughing, this could change the election in 26. It could change it in 28. And then the final bit, and then I'll stop the filibuster, which is to say, that if they also want the voter rolls of Minnesota and Georgia. And the reason is, and they want Homeland Security, they want to use the deportation list against the voter rolls. And if they find Jose Garcia has been deported, they're going to remove all the Jose Garcias from the voter rolls of Georgia and Minnesota, and they want Michigan, and they want Nevada, and they want and Illinois and several other states. This is their game. Now, understand, if you don't live in America, if you're not an American citizen, please don't vote. It's crime. But what happens when they use this list? They tried it once before. Go to gregpalast.com. You'll see my note on this. 189,000 Floridians were removed from the voter rolls, almost all of them Hispanic, because they had common Hispanic names matched with people deported. Of the 189,000 people who lost their vote or were purged from the voter rolls, 189,000 were being alien, illegal voters. Only one person was caught and charged, and he happened to be an Austrian Republican. And they made 189,000 people say, oh, you can vote. You just have to take a day off and go to federal court and prove you're an American citizen. Most of those people ended up losing their vote. This is what's coming down the line. This is why I need you to stay organized with PDA. This is why I need you to come out to the UU Church, the Universalist Unitarian Church in Hinsdale. Again, Thursday, it'll be 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Otherwise, go to Indivisible, 6 p.m. Central. That's 4 p.m. Pacific. It's 5 p.m. Eastern. And they're going to kick off the virtual discussion. And I'll be there on the virtual for Q&A too. So please, Thursday, that's the moment I want to see you. Or go to gregpalace.com. gregpalace.com.
And so, you know, I do want to encourage people to see the movie, of course, Thursday, but definitely make sure you see this film as we head into the election cycle. The moment where you have them sitting around as they're launching the in the 2000 Mules film, they're launching the strategy to get out and to interfere with the election, and to their desires to have people mobilized all across the country. These are Republicans to block the vote. In the context of 2026, I think will be even more harrowing than it was in 2024 to watch that. And then, of course, so vigilance in terms of the purging of the voting rolls. How can, and I suppose we have just a few minutes left, Greg, 2 minutes here. I know this is a tough question, but if you're in a state like what they've done in North Carolina, what they did in Florida with 189,000, if you're in a state, even if you have a Democratic Secretary of State, they're going to try to do this as they've tried in Minnesota. But they're not going to send the voting rolls in. How do you, as a citizen, get involved in blocking the Republican Party from purging the voting rolls in your state?
I hope. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Here, the number one thing I want everyone to do is register. I say, oh, well, I've been registered for 40 years. You'll see in our film, 92-year-old Christine Jordan, Martin Luther King's cousin. I was there filming her being thrown out of the voting station because she was on a purge list, saying that she'd never voted there before. She'd been voting at the same place 50 years. Now, why should she have checked her registration after 48 years of voting in the same place? Because they're out to take away your vote. So check your registration online. You can do this in every state. Second, check it again about 4 weeks before the election, because a lot of states it's 30-day cutoff for re-registration if your name's not there or there's an error. And finally, bring all your ID, photo ID, current photo ID with your address, like a utility bill, because 20 states actually allow you to register on election day. They don't tell you that, but if they say you're not on the voter roll, say, well, I want to register right this minute. And so you can do that. The other is go to gregpalace.com, stay informed, follow my work with Indivisible. I'm no longer freelance. I'm a columnist for Raw Story in the Tom Hartman program. But so you can check my stuff out at gregpalace.com.
Well, we're gonna designate you with. You got to go. I'll talk to you, Greg. We got to get you. You got to get you as Indivisible PDA. So we got to get you some title from PDA too. So hey, Greg,
what an honor. I will. Yeah, seriously, no kidding.
No, and so happy Indivisible's picking this up. This is great, Greg. Thank you so much, everybody. Check it out Thursday, and we'll get the information out to people. And Greg, thank you for joining us, and we will have you back across 2026.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you, Greg. And I mean, this is what Greg just outlined. Of course, the great Mimi Kennedy, who's actually a PDA board member, a great actor and actress, and also a voter protection advocate of the highest order, super engaged on these fronts, works with Greg, and we're going to make sure that everybody in PDA the PDA is going to be launching waves of asking citizens around the country to do exactly what Greg said, to check their registration and to see if people can sniff out, again, if any of these purges are taking place in their states, and make sure that people have the advance notice to do this heading towards November 2026 so that they will be registered to vote in that all-important election. Mike Olis. So the next question is, of course, the big election this week for us in PDA land, which is a special election in New Jersey 11th. We had the fantastic candidate, Analilia Mejia, join us just, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I finally found an article that tries to assess the prospects of the race. And they say this is wide open, where Analilia is the leading progressive candidate. Sounded from that article like there's a real chance that Malinowski and the lieutenant governor and the Essex County commissioner, those are the other three top tier candidates, along with Analilia, that they're no way in the progressive lane and that Analilia can win this thing if we progressives mobilize to support her, make phone calls that we're going to be doing in 30 minutes from now. But I understand that we have a great New Jersey activist that's going to join us now. And
yeah, hey, Mike Fox, could you move Nadia Morsy, Morsy?
No, first name spelled
Media.
Thank you so much. My apologies, Nadia. Here we go. I'm going to have it pushed right. I promise.
Okay, and then look, as we're setting that up, we got a phone banking crew that starts here in 30 minutes. This is an all-out phone bank week, right, for Analilia Mejia's her race in New Jersey, and it's going to be every vote is going to make a huge difference here. So we got 300 people still on this call, hour 90 minutes into it, and so this is going to be the race that is going to be progressive race number one to win here in February, and it'll set the tone for the rest of the year. So, Nadia, are you with us?
I am.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Hi, everyone.
And thank you for hanging on an extra couple minutes for us.
Of course. My name is Nadia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of Make the Road Action. And our organization has made a commitment to drive 15,000 door knocks and 100,000 phone calls. And we are well on our way. And want to thank you all, everyone on the call in advance, for making phone calls. And I'm very happy to hear that
Analilia was able to join Bob again.
Greg,
last 2 weeks back. I wanted to just share two numbers that I think are helpful references to what Alan had just shared. The first is that as of this moment in time, we have doubled our phone call goal. And the second is that we have hit our goal of 15,000 positive IDs heading into the last 4 days. And things are still incredibly up for grabs. But what this moment needs, just like Mike said, that this will be the CD11 race will be the first midterm race of the entire season. And so making sure that a pro-worker, pro-immigrant, PDA endorsed candidate can win not only shows that we have movement, but also that it is a smart political strategy. And so we have, we take with great responsibility this moment. And Analilia, what we have seen has really moved the conversation. We were at a debate where Tom Malinowski committed to healthcare for all. I mean, I don't think that we've heard that ever. But she has helped move the conversation left. Now all candidates are talking about abolishing ICE or using the phrase dismantling ICE. But we have an incredible moment here where we can send the organizer who makes other people into a human megaphone to be our human megaphone. So thank you all so much for all of the calls you've made. Thank you for the calls that you're going to make. And I'm actually headed to a phone bank with Analilia 30 minutes from now. So we'll all be making calls at the same exact time.
Well, first of all, from all of us, just give a shout out, love and solidarity to Analilia. Again, astonishing candidate, an astonishing representative of the people. I think everybody on this call should know that when Analilia wins this primary, and the winner of the primary is going to get elected in a special election that is in April, right? The April is the second. Right. And then you're going to see in Congress somebody who is just going to be brilliant as a public spokesperson for our movement and as just a fighter for working people with exactly the spot on policies we need to, rectify all the damage that's been done to the American working class in the era of neoliberalism, set it on a path where people can once again have faith in the United States of America as a place where they can have prosperity and liberty, and just the Donald Trumps will be overwhelmed by good politics. And this is just a great, great candidate. So yeah, from all of us at PDA, let her know that you're going to go full out in these next few days as best we can to mobilize our national base to make phone calls. And yeah, I mean, just a final thought. And I mean, look, Jersey. We joked every other state. Sorry, we all love New Jersey in the way we love New Jersey. But when you broke through the county line finally, it was like democracy's coming to New Jersey. So in another way, this will be a real, break the mold race to write off as we no longer have the county line to get a great progressive congressperson in from Jersey, which, on balance hadn't been the case so much in recent years. So yeah. And your final thought from me, and thank you so much for joining us on such short notice.
Of course. I mean, I think two final thoughts. The first is for folks on the call who are familiar with Jersey politics, Analilia was the organizer behind making sure that the line ended. And so what we need right now is an organizer. She was the former director of the Working Families Party, was a 32BJ organizer, and went on to become, when she was not running for Congress, was the director of Popular Democracy, which helped more than 41 affiliates in more than 41 states build up their grassroots organizations. And so what we need is somebody who knows how to move people at scale. And she's had that experience time and time again. And we're very excited. And you're right, this is the fighter that we need for the moment that we're in. The attacks are increasingly violent. And so we need people like Analilia Mejia, who's willing to walk.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I think I'm going to be able to find the video of Bernie Sanders' appearance with her this past Monday. And I think the little article I read, which is from like a local Jersey outlet, but the journalist seemed to be doing a good job, basically said that the person who did the report, that Analilia, following the Sanders appearance in particular, really is the candidate with the momentum in the race. And so we can sweep in and win this thing. We will have won this great race in New York City, won a great race in NJ11, and we'll be lifting up progressive politics across this whole country. Thank you so much, Naya Morsi, and let's have a victory on Thursday, folks.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Olis, a big shout out to you, man. Thank you for reaching out to your incredible allies and people you've worked with through the years in Texas and New Jersey. And just like the candidate in New Jersey, he does have a great website. Zeeshan said we got to get this going with PDA in every nook and cranny of this country. So everybody on the call is still here. Keep that in mind too as we go through the 2026 national election, which has primaries that go all the way from, this year from February 5th all the way through to mid-September. You have primaries still. And, crazy election system we have in the United States of America, but hey, it makes it more difficult for Donald Trump to mess it up if they're run by the states. Lastly, going back to Palast, Mike, don't ever think that this democracy is always going to return. They're going to really try to damage this thing and really steal people's sense of, being the authors of our society in the way that I know we've had a very wounded democracy with the power of money in our system, and we got to get rid of that. But, if they kill the little glimmer that we have now and the way that it operates, it's not like we're going to have access to a better democracy. We'll have no access to democracy at all. And the way that we really turn this around is by having young, inspiring candidates like Analilia, like Zeeshan, lift up and really provide faith in a new kind of politics here in America. And that's what PDA is all about. So, man, Mike, thank you so much for pulling the show together this week. Your final thoughts.
It's February 1st. It's been it's been a tough, we're in past year one of the Trump administration. The fight back has been intense and resilient. And this is the year that hopefully we will knock a fatal blow to the MAGA movement and replace it as we heard from the birthplace of populism today, Lampasas, Texas, the rebirth of a powerful progressive populist movement. And what an amazing call today, Alan. And from coast to coast, from north to south, we are organizing like crazy. So let's make this Sunday at 4:00 Eastern, 1:00 Pacific, a place that we always gather and learn from each other and get ready for the week ahead.
Yeah, and with that, it's worth saying that next week we, of course, will have our PDA town hall at its same time every week. We do it, if this this falls on Thanksgiving, this falls on Christmas, to Sunday, or
Yeah, there's
New
some
Year's.
football game coming up next week, right?
Yeah, but I think kickoff. Let's just very quickly Google the kickoff
I think it's
time
at
because
6. Yeah, 6 Eastern. So
we're going to be good. We're going to get this done before. You're not going to, if you have to go 15 minutes early if you want to see Green Day. Now, by the way, there are going to be substantial demonstrations in the Bay Area all week long against ICE, including efforts by a very sizable Bay Area coalition of activists with some union backing and everything. That's going to try to have a demonstration, not aggressive in posture, but to be heard at the Super Bowl. And we actually have some allies and even some allied elected officials who are interested in trying to figure that out. And so, that might be one thing that we're reporting on next week. I know that we're going to have one very special segment about the efforts to build real community radio stations across the country. And it's not a Pacifica project, so it's not related to my previous job. This is an independent project, and it's more even really, really about creating actually not just radio shows, sorry, like community podcasts, but really focus on the community because, one of the things people think about why Trump and the rise of Trump and right-wing politics in small towns and across so much of America, including suburban towns, et cetera, is because there's just no local media anymore that really has traction within the community. So this is a project to relate to that. But of course we'll have another political leader from across the country, maybe another congressional candidate. We'll of course be able to report back on. Again, let's mobilize it to make it an Analilia win in New Jersey 11th next week. But I want to thank all of our guests today. One big, of course, shout out to Mike Olis, Mike Fox, Susan Gilbert, Jim Langford, the whole Matt Fouts, Brian Buchan, the whole PDA staff behind the scenes. And want to thank, of course, Zeeshan Hafeez, who's just a super sharp guy and would be a great representative in Texas 33rd. Very unique race there with the two incumbents he's running against, but with a shot as, again, the standout progressive. Mike, if you can, again, I don't have in front of me Nedia Morsi's, am I getting her name wrong? Who was just on, if you could get her name right to thank her and on the outros. Mike Golis. Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
yes, I'm sorry, I got scrambled there for a second.
Oh, no, just to thank the people going out. We had Clayton Tucker, we had Zeeshan Hafeez, and again, the woman who we just had on, whose name was, I think, Morsi was her last name.
Morsi from Make the Road, New Jersey.
That's right. And of course,
leading New Jersey grassroots populist organizations. So
William Walter, and of course, Greg Palast, who is a tireless independent investigative reporter. And of course, his event in Chicago is on Thursday evening, I think 6:30 or 6 o'clock Central. So 2 hours before our campaign call on the night, we're going to get positive results from New Jersey 11th. And Analilia will be headed to Congress. Okay, man. Thank you so much, everybody. And we're going to go now to family time, which means Mike Fox is going to take over. And we'll see you next week for another PA Town Hall. Stay tuned for family time, folks.